be it. Thieves can lock it down here. From Kenny's POV we go. What a monster he has been. One, give him a second. There's a third. His teammates look to pick that up. Just a couple more ticks and that'll be it. Thieves, they are the real deal.
Let's go, baby.
Oh my god, baby. Good oh my god.
32 and 30.
Baby. Can't kill me.
Oh.
They can't kill me. Why am I so good? What the I play Valorant all day.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to day one of the Dallas home series. It is set to be a wonderful match, a great way to close out the day, as it will be OpTic Chicago taking on the New York Subliners in a match that really means everything in regards to that stage 3 major stud. This group has been nuts from top to bottom. A win here, what kind of heavily increases your chances of getting that top 3 seed, but a loss here very well could be the difference between you being in that winners versus losers side.
Yeah, a loss here can be tremendous on both sides because we know how stacked Group B can be. I'm pretty sure both of these teams right now are currently sitting at tied 2-1, where OpTic had that opportunity to go 3-0 and really put themselves in the driver's seat to get that winners bracket match. But now they find themselves versus a New York team who have just been really hot recently, and they're trying to bounce back off of a tough loss last week. I can't wait. This is going to be one of those bangers of a matches, like Lottie loves to say.
Absolutely, man. I've been looking at Twitter a little bit. Everybody's kind of giving their predictions. I think everybody has this going to a game 5. Like, whether you predict NYSL, whether you predict OpTic, everybody has this one going down to the wire. And I have to agree with them. I think it does as well. But like we said, we start with both of our teams. A big one for both of them. Let's go ahead and meet our first team. Put your hands together for OpTic Chicago.
Mighty Crimsix going formal.
Looking fantastic.
Envoy slaying his way through. Scump from up high, the king.
I'm out here doing what they thinking is irrational.
Really starting to run that score up.
I'm gonna make it back. I'm gonna make it back, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, OpTic Gaming are back. Chicago are a force to be reckoned with.
And there's a look at OpTic Chicago. What study coming into this match? They are off the loss versus the LA Thieves. They lose that one in a 3-1. Kind of major talking points. The fact that they lose all the respawns. And what? Do you think that we will see that Milano and FFAR be brought back out again?
Well, we better not. That's what I'm telling you now. We better not see no Milano or some FFAR. Like I said, the top 2 dogs ain't using it. There's no reason why you guys should. You probably enjoyed a little bit of some league play here and there, but the OpTic Chicago that we were expecting to see last week wasn't there. Losing 3 respawns, especially the way that they did, was not fun to watch. On a map like Apocalypse, where they got blown out by 100 points, you had 3 players who were sitting underneath a 1.0 KD. The only one above that was Dashy. It needs to be a complete team effort today versus a team like NYSL, who are really good just in respawns alone.
Yeah, that's without a doubt. I mean, we talked about New York, how great that they have been in those respawns, specifically the hard points. Like, they're undefeated right now in the HPs with HyDra on the team, but this could be his 4th series in the lineup. A lot to be excited about when it comes down to this other team. Let's go ahead and meet him, NYSL.
What a kill that was. I'll see you in league play later, boys and girls.
Clayster though has a couple players in front. He gets the 2.
He gets the 3rd.
There's the first. That was one more. It's inside. Fantastic movement. Shots on point. Keep the streak going.
It was a matter of moments before we saw this map potentially wide open.
Well, we discussed OpTic off of a loss, right? A 3-1 loss to the LA Thieves. On the other side here for New York, they're off of a great win, a solid 3-0 versus the Seattle Surge. And one guy who I feel like doesn't really get talked about too much from this NYSL lineup study is Mack, in which he goes off in that series versus the Seattle Surge, posting a 1.68 KD, was plus 26 for the series. Now back on that flex. I'm expecting to possibly see some great performances from him now in the team.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Mack is able to do today versus a team like OpTic Chicago. Last week, he had a tremendous series versus Seattle Surge, like you said, 1.6, and that's insane stats going up against players like Octane and Gunless. The guy was just on point, and now going up against players like FeLo and Dashy, he needs to come out and have the same exact thing. But we're going to start off with our New York game fuel keys to victory. Come out and win that hard point. NYSL currently are 5-0 ever since adding HyDra. Their respawn is just so tough to handle when you got Mack 1.6, Clayster and Paco, which is HyDra, currently consistently at a 1.3, 1.2. It's really hard to take them down. And then Mack, he needs to have another great series today. In the 3-0 versus Surge, like we keep on saying, 1.68 positive, 26 in those kills. And then the very last point is just to show the improvements in their Search and Destroy. So far throughout the season, they are 2-3 with this new roster. Search and Destroy is always going to be that game mode where new teams are formed, and that is going to be the one that they struggle in. But obviously, you've had more time to put in, more time to practice on the backside. It's all about just improving from here on out.
Yeah, I think without a doubt, like the major conversation for New York has been, okay, great hardpoint, Search and Destroys. How do you really improve in those? But really for the other side, right? For for OpTic Chicago, our game fuel keys to victory for them. Rely on the respawns again, right? They are 3-11 in their last 14 respawns versus top 7 teams. What they also lost all 3 versus the Thieves. And shout out to aBeZy, by the way, for that stat, the Atlanta FaZe analyst. And then also, Control has taken a major hit. They are 3-17 in their last, I think that was supposed to be, actually, that's supposed to be 3-7 in their last 10 controls. And I think also, Stud, in those 3 wins, they've all been versus the Seattle Surge, which are the worst control team in the game. So when we talk about respawns, this was a team to start off the year who was amazing in control. They were solid in hardpoint. I believe the Search and Destroys were even. Now they've really kind of adjusted a decent amount where the Search and Destroys are without a doubt their best mode. Hardpoints have taken a hit, and control without a doubt has not been very good versus solid rosters.
Yeah, Control definitely hasn't been very good versus solid rosters. Like you said, 3 wins that they do have in that game mode all go against the Surge, who are the worst team in Control that we have in the entire CDL. But I'm just looking for a totally different OpTic today, man, and looking at these maps and modes. We're going to start off with Apocalypse, and I really like to see Apocalypse in a lot of these series so far throughout Stage 3. A lot of these teams, they're just trying to expand their map pool because both of these teams that we have currently in this matchup, they've only played this map twice. So we're getting closer towards the end of the year. You're pushing towards that playoff push, and you want to be the best team that you possibly can be, and that's by expanding your map pool. So I'm excited to see maps like Apocalypse and definitely maps like Express still making their ways through a lot of these series.
I gotta say too, like coming into this series as well, like kind of off of that point, there were a lot of people who thought, hey, you know, OpTic Chicago versus NYSL, probably gonna see a decent amount of checkmate. Granted, we only do get it for the control, and I believe in the vetoes, it was New York who in the very first map ban possible, they get rid of checkmate hardpoint right off the rip. Are you surprised to see them make that pick, all things considered?
I'm not a little surprised because checkmate hasn't really been one of those strong suits for NYSL. Ever since picking up HyDra, it's been a map that they've really been struggling with because it's just hard to keep up with the rotations. You know how strong that that P4, the P5 hole can be. And OpTic, they're just really good at it. And they've only got 1 loss, and that's the 1 loss that they gained last week versus the Thieves. So they're basically undefeated if you don't count that one. New York, we're not trying to test those waters there. We're going to hop on board here with this nice and early Apocalypse. OpTic starting off with the better side.
And as we call that, right, Apocalypse, it's been, a map that we've been seeing more and more in the rotation. A lot of teams, like you said, trying to expand that map pool. It's off the rip. It is New York, hot and heavy, into the spawns of OpTic. Really just trying to get up close and personal in the middle side of the map. They take their time, and they quickly claim control of mid. You've got OpTic kind of spawning on both sides. It is a current 2 versus 2 fight inside of the hill, but it's HyDra. Starting off with a nice 4-0 spree. New York early, signs of life.
Oh man, that's a terrible start if you're OpTic right there because you get those spawns for Temple. Unfortunately, not any kills going to your favor. So New York, they able to get 25 seconds uncontested on this P1 hardpoint. As I say that, 3 players are going to drop. So number 2, in Clayster, he's going to have his hands full off the rotation. You see all the players from New York just flooding on through the front side of Broken. Unfortunately, Clayster's going to drop there, so now it's all left up to his teammates. But you see number 7, such a great play out of the route man in. Envoy going to set up the pinch and eventually eliminate all the players from New York on this side of the map. And now OpTic have full control.
Indeed, as the hill actually does get wiped away for the moment. It will be, like you mentioned, OpTic, just because of that player 5 positioning out of Scump. It will secure spawns here for Temple, but kind of in the midst of that push, right? We talked about Envoy. A major conversation has been around him about his ability to flank. A lot of teams have said they started to kind of figure him out. A lot of people have been mentioning maybe that route, kind of that route man is starting to become more predictable. I want to hear your thoughts, like in terms of Envoy. Like, do you think that he needs to kind of slow that play down? Has that, you think, been kind of a problem for OpTic, or is it something else?
It's definitely just been their teamwork, just in general. I feel like whatever Envoy does on the map, when he's hitting those routes, it's for a reason. It's setting up for team pushes. Like right there, if that play doesn't happen, you leave a couple Subliners players the opportunity to get more kills. But he's immediately going to force out those spawns, so he's making the right plays. It's just about if they can pick up the kills in those certain situations, and right there they get the job done. But you're going to see right off the rip of this P3 hardpoint, New York are going to be nice and early in towards this. And OpTic, they're trying to break in. Kills going back and forth. New York do have the spawns that they want on this side of the map. Mack still hitting some great shots with that Krig, and you should see a lead change here pretty soon.
Very well could be the case. New York with a slim advantage for the time. As Mack, long-range shots really toward the bottom side of the map, does finally get met with the nade. Without a doubt, it has been a very closely contested HP to start this one off. We talk about Apocalypse. It can get chaotic from time to time, whether it's the SMGs in your face or the spawns across the entire side of the map. A lot of times it does come down to the communication. And let's go ahead and step aside and listen in with the communication out of OpTic Chicago for our Astro Listen In.
Outside coop, Asim.
No, one temple.
Yo, there's two at new.
P1.
Hide dark.
Two at new.
I'm help.
He's P1.
Play one shot. One back right, one coop, one on time.
He's laying down close to HyDra. HyDra.
I spawned out. Yo, wait for me. I'm going coop. We're broken.
Try to play alive.
Oh my god!
Nice.
Two roll.
Yo.
Dark
Yo, they spawn no man. He's in dark.
I can help you, Tom.
Two there, no trophy.
Yeah, there's three. One point coop.
Come left.
Yo, I'm hitting all with Brandon. Yo, hit this with this. No trophies.
Yeah,
Nade him.
Bottom
Can you nade him, Brandon?
TV, guys. Bottom TV, I need help. I know.
One shot.
Bottom TV weak.
Time absolute.
He's laying down. Mack, absolute on time.
There's two. Dark. Weak. Left side.
Hill HyDra.
Nice.
Push the back.
Yeah, let's push the back.
One more dark.
Back, weak.
One more dark, guys.
Back. One's back right too.
Yeah, I'm gonna go coop, okay? You guys just wait for me.
I'm gonna go left, guys. I'm gonna go left. One's probably bottom TV or something. Push out.
Yeah, nothing.
I think bottom left. I'm flashing TV.
I think back,
I'm hoping you guys back.
Yeah, I'm shouting at the back. I don't see him on the truck.
Epic trenches, nothing top.
Nothing close right. Yo, on the tree.
Tree Clay, absolute.
Clay.
I need him. One's in the back. One more in the back.
I spawned the left.
Back, yeah, all good.
You wanna hit front?
Yeah.
Let's push out bottom TV.
Yeah, right here.
Above you.
One shot,
Dead.
nice.
I'm playing back.
Go left for me, Asim.
Playing back.
No.
Two left.
I'm going left.
Coop Mack.
Coop Mack.
Let's go
Yeah,
left.
front ammo.
Go left.
I'm gonna
Front
hit
ammo and coop.
Go right.
Look for him. No, I'm not going right.
He's going right. He's going right from coop.
I hear.
I don't see back.
He's
Coop.
in
I'm
coop.
in.
Yo, there's two
There's
there.
double the time. One's weak.
One's close, Seth.
I don't see the kid right.
They're both
Yo, hold
weak.
right.
Both
I got
I
him.
don't see the kid right. You got him?
Yeah, I got him.
I have.
Both weak and old.
Helping you low
I need
left.
help.
Yo, one's a coop.
Coop, I'm watching Coop to right.
They're not challenging the still. I need help. Come here.
Yeah, let's hit
I
it.
have Coop to right. I have Coop to right.
Maybe coop them.
Close dead. One more.
Coop to right. HyDra.
Not weak.
One shot right. HyDra.
Nice, two.
Broken, guys. And broken
We gotta
HyDra.
kill this guy.
Back up.
Yeah, we gotta kill this guy.
I'm coming back with these shots.
After the first set of rotations, it's New York sitting in the driver's seat with around a 60-point lead. And really, Standy, I know really when we were kind of listening in for a moment, it was great to hear the hype. It was great to kind of hear the communication out of OpTic. Just really the overall positioning not favoring them, like I said, in those first set of rotation.
Yeah, like one thing that it really caught me off guard is when Formal just yelled out of nowhere after getting that two-piece, and that's great for this team in OpTic. They need that energy. They need to try to fight back into this game because New York, they have just been dominating off the rotations. You heard at the very end of those comms, are we team challenging? Are we pushing this? And New York, they are just fully set up on every single hardpoint. They were able to hold that P4 from the front side and eventually flip those spawns to the back and then hold a complete 60 on towards that P5. And now they're rotating towards the second rotation of hardpoints. They're getting a good amount of time off of this P1 and they're keeping those spawns for P2. So right now, New York are just on point with their rotations. Clayster's really stepped up in the second half of this game. He really didn't have a good start to this one, but his team is just on point right now, especially in these hardpoints.
And it's so impressive as well. Like on Apocalypse, I feel like so often we see teams maybe kind of overvalue P2 to the point where they just allow for the kind of P1 to go the opposite direction. But really doubling the score right now is the New York Subliners sitting firmly inside of that money hill over at P2. This was a recent loss. This was the map where OpTic lost the series versus Thieves. It was a solid win where Kenny started going off, and really you could argue that they've kind of had a similar impact on the opposition side. For New York, there's been a number of different players stepping up and looking good to possibly improve that hardpoint record to 6-0 here in stage 3. But can OpTic look to try and break on in? 25 valuable seconds on the clock, and you see Scump has no real team support. He's got no extra pressure here to go alongside of him, so he has to back on up. And that just will continue to give NYSL the advantage and continue to win the fights toward mid. And this is just really a hard spot to be put in if you're OpTic Chicago right now. Nobody really having a stellar, crazy performance of a game, but it's really been HyDra who has yet to be met with that SMG up close, and the answer is right on the call. 26-14, make it 27-14. Now on the flank, nearly makes it a 4 spree for good measure, putting the exclamation point here on Apocalypse as 3 seconds away, and it will be NYSL coming out of the gates hot with a commanding Game 1 hardpoint win.
Man, that was one of those whoopings that you don't really expect to see if you're a team like OpTic. New York was just on point. There was no one on the opposite side for OpTic to match the energy of HyDra. But it was just so difficult because the way that New York were playing that, they were just so focused on the rotation. The communication was there, and they were holding the 60 hills for full 60s. And at the end of that very first rotation, they get the P5 for a full 60. Then they rotate, they get temple spawns, they get a good amount of time off that P1, and then they hold P2 for a full 60. It was just impossible right there for OpTic to try to fight back into that game. This is the 3rd time that they've played it. This is the 2nd time they basically gotten a 100-point clubbed on it. If I'm OpTic, you just got to keep putting in that work to try to expand that map pool. But as of right now, I'm putting that one aside. I don't know if we're going to play that one ever again.
Yeah, I think without a doubt, maybe you put that one maybe toward the back of the closet for the moment and maybe try to focus on something else. But as you said, man, it has been back-to-back dominant losses there on Apocalypse hardpoint as NYSL continue their spree in the HPs. Like we said, now improving to 6-0 in stage 3, but it was HyDra, 29-14, 4,500 damage to go along with it. We talked about how the 74U can reign supreme there on Apocalypse, and as you called it, Stud, just nobody able to greet him there with the slang.
Yeah, man, the guy was just on point. Like, it was no answer for him. He started off the map at least going 4-0. Then right there at the very end, he picks up a 4 speed, just kills every single player on the side of OpTic. He was just untouchable. Their hardpoint game is just so strong on the side of New York.
Oh, it is indeed, man. It's kind of weird, right? I feel like, normally when we talk about OpTic teams, like they're just not kind of known for dropping these hardpoints the way that they have. But hey, like we said, Search and Destroy, it has been their backbone. Can OpTic reply here for the upcoming Express S&D? Or will New York continue on and surge in a nice 2-0 start? We will find out after this quick break.
The Call of Duty League is presented by Scump, the official controller of the Call of Duty League. The US Army, what's your warrior? The new CODE Battle Doc Pack is free for military service members and veterans, courtesy of USAA. Scan the QR code or visit callofdutyleague.com/USAA to redeem.
Well, it was a commanding Game 1 victory here for NYSL as they clean up Apocalypse, 100-point clubbing the side of OpTic Chicago. But what's funny, now we have to focus our attention into the search and destroy, much like OpTic probably has to at this moment. They got to wipe away that first hard point and now focus in here into the search and destroy. And I want to ask you, right, OpTic has been on this run where, like we said, hardpoint has not been stellar. Control at times is fine, but it's really versus kind of lower tier teams. Search Destroy, what, they're 8-2 in their last 10. What has made this team so dominant in this one in particular?
It's just been their teamwork. The aggression that they're able to put on the map together, not relying on a lot of individual play, has really changed the S&D game for this team specifically. And every time we watch these guys, we always expect Envoy to be the playmaker, to be going on the late flanks, but he's really slowed down his gameplay, and he's starting to work a lot more with Scump. And the way that Scump and Formal work, especially on a map like Checkmate, those guys hold down plane. It's just constant teamwork for these guys. They rely on Dashy to just sit all the way in the back of the map, hold down one of these lanes, and try to get a first blood and not get first blooded, and he's been doing a great job at that. So far, OpTic, their S&D has really been on point, and like you said, man, 8 out of their last 10 have been wins on this game mode specifically. They need to be able to bounce back on this map too, to tie the series up 1-1, because the way New York just beat them in that map number 1, all the momentum has to be in their favor. They just got to completely forget about that Apocalypse hardpoint.
Yeah, and this is where things kind of, do at times get a little bit scary for this OpTic team, just with that hardpoint not being so reliant on it. Now it's kind of forcing you to be solid in the search and destroys, which granted they have been, and there's no doubt about that. Now, one thing to kind of consider, we talked about the Apocalypse hardpoint. That was one that they did drop versus the LA Thieves. That was a commanding loss, and obviously they lose it here. Whenever they did face off against the LA Thieves, though, they also did play Express Search and Destroy. That's when we saw the FFAR get brought out by Dashy. Everybody was changing their classes, thinking, hey, maybe this is the weapon I should have. But they did control that one pretty well. They did win it in a 6-3 fashion. For NYSL, like I said, the Search and Destroys really haven't been all that great for them either, Stud. Well, I think they're what, like 2-3 right now. All of their wins have been in round 11s and on raid, of all things, as we are hot and heavy already into our first round. Back and forth. The nice trades, though, come through as HyDra, the headshots aplenty. Clayster finding one toward the back, as it will now leave Bruce all by himself in a 1 versus 2. I'm down.
Yeah, so in that play right there, New York, they just took control of the middle of the map, and it was just impossible for Chicago to try to work out. HyDra was able to pick up 2 on the round, so now it's left in a 2v1 situation for Dashy. The bomb is going to be down towards the side staircase. Clayster, he has gained that information. The bomb is going to be down. So both players from New York are going to be playing back-to-back. Shoulder's going to be thrown. That's going to be the info that they need. So both players should turn their backs and make sure the 2v1 challenge does come in. He's not going to get a hit marker with that flash. He's just going to slide out and commit to the challenge, able to take down Dashy. And just like that, New York are up 1-0.
Yeah, so that challenge did get a little bit scary for me, right? I feel like with Asim challenge the way that he was, I'm not sure, like, how the team shots were going to look in that moment. But regardless, Asim's able to win it. The SMGs, without a doubt, having their stamp in that opening round. And really what HyDra is able to drop 2 to start off. And he's kind of been, the major conversation point for NYSL. Like, the hard points have been great. Search and Destroy and Control for him, not so excellent. Right now in Search and Destroy, granted, he's only played a few series. But at a .62, still trying to work on his kind of value to the team, and we know how great, there's no doubt about it. The gun skill is there, so it's just a matter of kind of getting in a rhythm, I guess you could say, here in the Search and Destroys. As this would be a great time for him to come alive. Toward this B site, things can get crazy.
This is the perfect play. They just got all the players from OpTic to hit the rotation, so the only player left is going to be Scump. He's going to play his life. He knows that there's a couple players from New York in his position, but once he gives up his shot, here comes 4 arrows turned down to try to take him down, but he's going to be able to take down Clayster and be able to take down HyDra as well. I thought this round was 100% going to go in favor of New York, but Scump, the king, making the play when he needs to the most. Now the 1v4 situation is Mack, and just like that, OpTic Chicago are able to win the defensive round. That play does not happen if Scump doesn't stay alive. Him right here not giving up his position definitely caught the players from NYSL off guard and able to get 2 on the round was so huge. He is the only player at this bomb site, but he makes the play. Now we're tied 1-1.
And kind of throughout the search and destroys, he has been so great for them in this mode in particular. He's one of the highest KDs for the team right now, like around a 1.8 or so throughout stage 3. I feel like we've not seen more players than Scump really kind of in those situations walk away with the double kill, just kind of holding on to that ADS. Obviously, back in the day, you know, one of the fastest reactions. He still has one of the fastest reactions in the league, but just kind of continue to show off his game, as unfortunately he does get met with 2 New York players. 2 is better than 1 after all. And how about a stopwatch type of round? Locking in at really what, just 20, 25 seconds. And really, New York is continuing to show that aggression toward this B site.
The aggression from the submachine guns, they have really been just taking over this series so far. HyDra and Asim just being aggressive towards mid-map. This is the second defensive round that they have been able to win. They opened up with the first blood with Clayster picking Dashy from down low. And they just take control of that bomb site. But now, New York, they find themselves up 2-1. You saw the way that OpTic decided to play their last round. If I'm New York, I'm going for the same exact play. That slow and steady push towards B, because it caught them off guard and just let Scump make that play individually by himself. But now it's looking like OpTic is going to attack this through the middle of the map. Scump's going to be able to open up with another first blood. He's able to take down the second as well. So now just like that, Scump is making the play once again. Clayster left in a 1v3.
Like I said, man, he just continues to hold down the ADS. Like, he doesn't try to, you know, do anything unnecessary. It's just, hey, I know you're going to challenge me from this corner. I'm just going to wait for you to make the mistakes. Excellent plays in these last 2 rounds, or rather the only 2 rounds that OpTic have won so far. It has been Scump coming through with a crucial double kill. And again, it seems like the SMGs are going to be the story of this map. So far, they have been from New York, and so far, Scump has answered the call. E2P having a great performance, currently at 9 combined through 4 rounds of play, as we'll get to see what OpTic wants to show us here. Again, at times they've been having some struggles over at that B side, especially when New York has been on the defensive. They at least attempt at making a play toward A much slower start to the round. And I want to say there was a nice double chow possibly coming in from HyDra and Mack toward lockers. But it was Envoy, all the smarter, backing up, makes the right play. As we're 30 seconds deep and nobody is yet to drop.
Yeah, so Envoy, he was able to gain that information that 2 players are pushed up towards low lockers with the great shoulder. Give him that information, but you see OpTic slowly rotating over towards this B site. A couple shots are going to come in, but Asim and Clayster, unfortunately, Clayster is going to nade himself. Don't know how you do that, but now in a 3v3, Asim is able to take down 1, which turns it into a 2v2. And with 30 seconds left, you're going to see HyDra hitting this late flank, able to take down Envoy, and just like that, the bomb is going to be down towards the side staircase. With 25 seconds left, you know both players from New York are going to be here, and Dashy has to commit to the challenge, but New York are able to walk out with that round on top. Now they found themselves up 3-2.
And just the good plays right here from HyDra. Granted, he does walk away with both and gets a nice assistance from Mack, no doubt, but this is the guy that you really want to set up. I know necessarily it wasn't Mack trying to maybe, you know, kind of set himself up to die for HyDra, but again, you just want to kind of get some confidence in this young gun stud. We talked about him, you know, obviously making the trip from France. He is the phenom, a lot of pressure on his shoulders to really try and perform from the team. And really any opportunity that you can get for Paco, aka HyDra, just to have a good moment, you will take it. But really, solid performance from him to start off. 5-3. Good performance early, but it's Mack with the nice shots there on to Formal. Quickly gets met with a nade from Scump, though.
So now it turns into a 3v2 situation, and a bomb is going to go straight down on towards the speed site. It's the first time we've seen a bomb plant so far throughout all the rounds that we've watched, so it's going to be a little different, but OpTic in a 3v3 retake now. You're going to see Scump working through his back tunnel. But HyDra, he's going to be laying straight in the middle of the street. A shoulder's going to come in. Scump, he's going to spot him, but Clayster, great team shots, able to keep his teammate alive.
It is.
Dashy is going to have that FFR out. But unfortunately, a long-distance gunfight isn't going to go in your favor, and New York, just like that, are able to find themselves up 4-2 on map number 2.
Yeah, a solid round win out of New York. You know, like I said, coming into the series, that, hey, you know, are we going to see the FAFAR make somewhat of a debut? It did. It also did in the Express versus LA Thieves, and clearly it treated him well. But You said, man, I tell you what, like whenever I use that weapon, like in league play, or not in league play, just in regular pubs,
it's impossible.
It just flies. Like it just flies up my screen.
Yeah.
I gotta say, despite not finding a kill there with the FFAR out of Dashy, like this makes it look like there's no recoil on the gun. I don't know how he does it. Bruce is not human. I'm convinced.
Definitely not human, but formal. Able to open up with the first blood now in this round number 7. So now it's gonna be a 4v3. Asim is able to spot one player crossing through the middle of the train, but Dashy with great movement, able to play his life perfectly. Now eventually this A bomb plant is gonna come in for OpTic. So now in a 4v3 retake, 2 nades are gonna come in. Subliners, they calculated perfectly. A first blood is gonna come on to Envoy, and they know that Scump is gonna be one shot. No players are gonna commit. Dashy's gonna get perfect timing and turn on Asim. Now in a 3v2 situation, HyDra's in such a great position, but unfortunately great shoulders out of Dashy. Give up that. But Mack, great shots over, and it's gonna be a 2v1 situation, all left up to Dashy versus Mack and HyDra.
I'm about the plays from these two. In the clutch, all down to Bruce. 25 seconds on the clock, and he's going to gain some information, at least toward this top side, to realize, okay, hey, maybe they've rotated, maybe they have gone over toward B, which is in fact the case. And we've got Concast, so we know exactly where those New York players are at, but Dashy having to play his life carefully. With 10 seconds left, I mean, really, he has to try to force it as quick as possible. They try to go for the plant, but he's just looking in every single direction. And New York, they come out and surprise again. A well-played situation in the clutch. And that a big question that I had coming into this, I know you did as well. How are New York going to come into this week, this Dallas home series, and work on their search and destroy? And granted, the game is not by any means over as of yet. You can just tell by the coordination, the way that HyDra's playing, this has been a mode that they've been focusing on quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. That last round was just nothing but teamwork. The fact that HyDra was taking shots from multiple players on OpTic, and eventually Mack puts down a couple shots over top of him. Teamwork has been there. We're going to start off this round number 8 with Mack getting a first blood. It turns immediately into a 3v3. But yeah, the bomb's all the way at A. This is a perfect job right here from New York, just to cause a lot of noise over there towards that B bomb site. It's going to be a free A bomb plant, and now they're able to take control of OpTic's base. Now, so when they decide to wrap back, this is going to be a difficult task to get done. But Asim, he's able to find the first blood onto Envoy. Now all left up to Scump and Dashy in a 2v3 situation. Dashy's going to get traded. Now Scump left in a 1v2.
Scump finds Clay. Now brings it to a 1 versus 1. 20 seconds left to work with, but where is Asim hiding? It could join up soon. Here comes the fight, and Asim's going to win it as New York continue their dominant spree. Closing out the hard point on Apocalypse and a 100-point club, and then now walk into the search and destroy, a mode that they have not looked all that confident in as of yet in Stage 3, and take down one of the best search and destroy teams in the game right now in OpTic Chicago. They dominate them on their turf and now take a 2-0 series lead. I'll tell you what, man, like, you know, you could have said that, you know, okay, cool. Like, you know, one team's going to go up 2-0 in this series and not really told me the rest. I would have assumed probably a close first 2 maps. This has not been the case, my friend.
It definitely hasn't, man. What New York were able to do on that map right there in those early rounds really set the tone for how the rest of the map was going to be played. They were being so aggressive towards that middle ticket booth, so aggressive towards B, that it forced OpTic a lot of those rounds to work towards that A-bomb site. Once they lost those 2 offensive pushes towards B, they started committing towards A. Then eventually, when they started going A, they saw the way that New York was playing it. They had a little double stack going, and eventually that play was just getting shut down. New York were just taking the map to them, taking the map control, and just being so aggressive. They left no opportunities for OpTic to try to make a play, and unfortunately now they find themselves down 2-0 in this series. New York are just on a different playing field right now. They're on fire.
They are, man. They are. It was Paco's playground, basically, throughout the Express. And we also have to revisit I think one of the most crafty rounds that we've seen so far throughout the CDL season with our U.S. Army tactical play. We're talking about New York, right? They're making tons of noise over at this B site. Clayster plays his life well. He backs up. Meanwhile, OpTic thinks the fight's going on. They're waiting for somebody to peek out. Meanwhile, Stud the Bomb's on the other side of the map.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the way that these guys broke down this play. Mack is usually that flex player who's going to be sitting back with an AR. And Clayster, he's always going to put down those shots from the tunnel. But Mack switches to a sub. He gets a little aggressive towards B, so it forces all of OpTic to put their main focus on towards that B site. Clayster plays his life. Eventually, they take full control of that A site, take control of OpTic's base. So when they decide to wrap back out of there, it's impossible. You're running straight into the preaims of New York. And now with 20 seconds left in this 1v1 situation, Scump has no idea where Asim is. He jumps down, he tries to check the mid tracks where he previously was on the round, but Seany walks away with the kill. In New York, they walked away with the map, but it wasn't that easy. New York, they just took it to him. They took the map control, and they were just being so aggressive on the map, they gave OpTic zero opportunities to work anything as a team.
I'll tell you what, man, that last round was a thing of beauty, including your analysis, which is even better than the overall round itself. But like we said, man, New York off to a commanding start throughout this series. Is this one going to be done in 3, or can OpTic reply back in the checkmate control? It is set to be a phenomenal one. Can OpTic begin to bring this one back, or will this be our final map of the day? Stick with us as this one only continues.
The Call of Duty League is presented by T-Mobile, now America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile, the leader in 5G. Scump, the official controller of the Call of Duty League. The Call of Duty League is presented by USAA Insurance. We offer insurance that's made for the military community to help them easily protect what they've worked hard for.
The young man has came to play for Toronto, but oh my God, he's putting on a show right now.
Cool him off. Cool him off. My goodness. Insight.
The man is a beast. Insight. Look at him. Look at him. He's fired up.
Spawning close, Drazah now from behind. Trying to deal their damage. Finds one. Another player in his line of sight and a good bit of shots as well. Oh my word.
He has been on one. What else can he get?
Big gunfights for him to win. He turns it into 2.
This guy is special. Welcome back to the league.
Drazah is the man. The Alaskan assassin.
With this break, they can get somewhat of a collection of players and be in a good spot, but Paul has other plans. Last push that can be made from London. 2 players drop. It's all onto the Røkkr. Paul X, there's 2. Hold on a moment. Hold on a moment. That's 3.
HyDra immediately pushes the front line forward. A weapon of war he is, even though a young one. And he is going ham, baby.
HyDra now finds himself. Pressure's on. Gets the job done.
9 kills right now, leading the way for his team, but Standy takes down, 1 bullet away. The 5v3 in the wall, babe, with the pistol.
All 4 drop, and Standy cuts them all down. What was that?
That's a confidence play right there.
I'll tell you what, man, I absolutely love seeing what content pieces like that, just kind of highlighting what has been really the story of the rookies so far throughout this season. You're looking at your top 5 right now on the screen. We see Insight, Standy, Paul X, Neptune, and of course HyDra. I mean, what, man? We've seen so many guys come in, just totally change the pace of their roster. We saw Standy have a phenomenal last series. Like, Insight's looking great. Paul has done a lot. Neptune, I know, has had a number of different crucial moments, but we have to focus on really the player of the series so far, at least in my eyes, stud. HyDra looks so good in that hard point, and he brought the pain today in that search and destroy.
He definitely did, man. I'm pretty sure he's just having an insane day. Look at that stat. 38 and 18 on the day, 2.11. And it's not like he's going versus the worst team in the CDL.
No.
He's going up against OpTic Chicago. Like, the guy is putting on a performance today. And the biggest one that really stands out is that S&D improvement. Him dropping 9 kills in that map number 2 definitely shows that they have been putting the work in the back end to try to get better at their game mode, because they know that their hard point, it's unmessable right now. 6-0 so far ever since this guy's been picked up to the team. And now they find themselves up 2-0 in this series, where they're going to play a checkmate control. Both of these teams have in common that they're going to be sitting at 5-5 and 4-4. And another thing that they have in common is that they both lost the last time that they played, and it was against London. So hopefully OpTic are able to show some life here, because this is not the OpTic that we were expecting to see. We saw them, they started off throughout stage 3 going out 2-0. And now they lost that match to the Thieves. And this has the potential to be the second time that they have been swept by New York if they lose this one here.
Yeah, as you called it, right? We've had, this is the 3rd matchup between New York and OpTic. OpTic 3-0'd them at stage 1 major. New York came back and 3-0'd them at the stage 1 major, but that time in the elimination bracket. I know we hype up this series so much, but it has really been dominance in all 3 of our prior engagements. And could this be another, as New York looking to seal the deal here in the checkmate control? But what really can OpTic do? Off the start, coming into an offensive round. Times it's kind of the ladder of what you'd rather be on in terms of positions. You want to try to get some momentum, start this bad boy off. The quick plays early. As OpTic hopping inside of that A control point. It's all down to Scump. A current 1 versus 2 fight. At least is able to trade out 1. Dashy is there for the assistance, so few minutes in, rather a few seconds into this first round. And it's OpTic, someone uncontested over at that A street.
Yeah, so OpTic, they were able to get in a good initial start off by taking 2-3 players down. Eventually, Scump with the big engagement. Some great team shots from Dashy to help him secure this A point. And this is a nice and early job from OpTic to secure this and extend this time by a minute. Scump's currently 2-0. He caps the point. Unfortunately, he's going to drop to Clayster there. But you have a 2-live advantage. All you need to do is work this B point, and early on, it's going to be Envoy onto this point. He's going to try to rotate, try to take down HyDra, and they're still trying to fight for map control. The good thing is OpTic do have that plane control right now, so they can just maneuver, just wait for kills to eventually come in sync. And Envoy, he's just not missing, man. That's going to be another 2 down. This might be the opportunity for OpTic to hop this.
Oh my goodness, Envoy. Just a great shot to the bottom side of the plane, and now he takes plane for himself as he's hitting beams. Takes the head clean off of Asim, as that should surely set up OpTic to be in a good position to get some more time here at that B control point. And the streak only lives on. 7 in a row out of Dylan Envoy, the route maker indeed. Shutting players down left and right. New York licking their wounds in the backside of the spawn. Question being, can they even get to the hill in time? And it looks as if they will contend for the moment. HyDra wins some big fights, so they will delay. And that's a big moment they're at in New York. Granted, based off the live count, not in a great position. But really, any time to delay is good time if you are New York. HyDra, talk about the SMGs. He's now going to find himself on a spree for the time. Did not see the player toward the top side of the plane. That will be really the overall team fights from New York that are working out. And just like that, stud, it is Chicago. Now in the back of their base, they made so much progress. We thought Envoy may have sealed the deal there. And he realizes how important this opening offense is. He's going to go in and call in the streaks.
I don't really like this usage out of the streak anyways. Even if he calls that in, they should have been able to cap that point, but they let the New York players get onto it and eventually contest that and win the majority of those gunfights. So now OpTic, they waste that cruise missile. They have a 2-live advantage with 45 seconds remaining. You have to try to fight for some plane control, and you're going to see Envoy just taking his sweet time. Dashy still able to take down the Clayster on the outside of the map. With a 5-4 advantage, now you're going to have no more advantage, no more lives in favor of New York, but they're able to take down 2 players. Now with 30 seconds left, the contest is going to come in. Mack eventually is going to get traded, but HyDra is still doing such a great job just keeping this plane control, able to switch guns as well. Now all left up in a 2v3 situation for Clayster and Asim. Can they hold on?
Everybody's hitting beams right now. A big round early. Can New York clutch up, or can Chicago walk away with one that they've invested a ton in? Here comes the capture time. The nice snap from Envoy. All down to Asim, and Chicago will be able to find it, but boy, was hit a difficult one. I mean, back and forth, it was Envoy who was well-deserved of that best play, but I'll tell you what, man, everybody is hitting beams right now, stud. Everybody.
Yeah, man, that one it got a little scary for OpTic, because obviously they thought that they were going to be able to stack that and close this out. Envoy still have his 2 streaks, best case scenario, but New York, they were able to contest that to the very end, and now they do get that capture point, and they find themselves up 1-0 on this map, but it just wasn't that clean. Now New York, they're going to be on their offensive push. They do waste a streak from Envoy in that previous round, so they got to keep in mind of that artillery. But OpTic, they just did such a great job at just keeping plane control. New York, they need to adapt to that. They need to get some more players in plane, winning more of those engagements.
Will be the early attack from New York. Door to the A Street as Mack will put in the first blood. Not a stat that we often highlight, really, in anything other than search and destroy, but with how crucial these opening breaks are for offenses in control, at times it can be a stat that you have to bring up. As Mack continues to win the fights, shuts down Dashy. Meanwhile, it's HyDra doing the damage control toward the top plane, as that will be 1 tick through. New York looking for the stack. Also, trying to keep in mind that future control. I was going to ask the question, does OpTic try to go for the contest here, or do they just allow for this one to go the opposite way? With Scump and Envoy finding the fights that they do, it will come down to a big 2 versus 3. OpTic, they clear the point, and they hold on for now.
They just do such a great job at just retaking control of that plane. And that's a great job out of Scump right there. Now you're going to see him push up towards low Tetris. Another 2 players are going to drop. HyDra eventually is going to get the trade. But just getting New York off of that point, such a big job to get done. Now with 40 seconds left, you see the time is starting to tick. And OpTic, all they have to do is just hold the line. Hold the players from New York towards their side of the base. Scump is doing such a great job at that 8 point, able to take down another 2. Asim eventually will get traded by Formal. So now it's going to be all the players from New York spawning out towards that back yellow crate. They had to try to commit towards this 8 point, but just the line of defense that OpTic have right now. Scump has just done such a great job of just holding this down. With 15 seconds left, 2 players are now going to drop. New York have to get on a point now.
With 10 seconds remaining off the clock, they have to try to balance the time while also trying to get to the point. And really, with these fights continuing to go the way of OpTic, this is going to be their round to win. With 1 second, though, Asim does get over toward B. Again, it is a long shot, but it is one nonetheless. And speaking of long shots, Envoy, I don't know how he wins that fight there with the 74U.
He's
but
not missing.
Bending the bullets and securing the 2-0 advantage. And again, I know we talked about it, in control, just in general, like, the recent victories for OpTic. They haven't been stellar, right? 3 of their last 10, they've won control, and those 3 have been versus the Surge. But we cannot deny, right, this is the same team that started off the season, the same team that was so good in those offenses. They're also so solid on the defensive side in control as well, right? We talked about them on attack. They're ranked number 3. New York, they're ranked number 2. But again, this is where the big differential comes up. Both good on attack, but Chicago is number 3 on defense. New York, they dropped down to 11. Really a big swing from this OpTic team. Control was their mode to start off the season, and can it be the one that they rely on to get back in this series? Starting things off well with a nice 2-0, as New York so far throughout round 3 have yet to drop.
Yeah, so right now, New York, you're having a bad map out of Asim and Clayster. If you're not able to slay, especially on a map like Checkmate, you can get put nice and early into a spawn trap, but all the kills still going in favor of New York. Not a single player has dropped on this round number 3, but as I say that, there goes the caster curse, and Scump is able to take down HyDra. But they're just keeping all of OpTic in their base. They're not allowing Envoy to use his artillery to try to set up a push. But as I say that, they're fighting for plane control. Scump eventually is going to win that gunfight onto Clayster, but Asim is still so far pushed up towards blue. The players from OpTic have to keep track of him And time is starting to tick, but that might be the opening to get on towards this 8 point. 2 players, unfortunately, are going to drop at the same time. In New York, they are just holding the line.
Yeah, and really that crossfire kind of toward the 30-yard line of OpTic's base has been so well established throughout this round. Can they finally get an opening with 10 seconds left? Now's the time to do it, if ever. Keeping in mind, the life count not drastic by any means. So if OpTic were to secure this, by no means is that B point all but an afterthought. With 5 seconds left, New York, they get the clearance. And again, despite what was kind of an even round slang-wise, it was New York who come out hot and heavy, deny that, that 11th rank in defense, and they come out with one of the most convincing yet, Stud.
Yeah, they just get the job done right there. They get the initial kills, and that's one thing that they struggled with on the first defense was just the initial break off. You let OpTic able to get 3 down, and that you basically have to fight out of your base if you're in New York. But in that situation, they get all the kills. They were able to fight for that map control, and now they found themselves down 2-1 still in this game. Now, little on the offensive side. Like I said, Clayster's just not having the map that he wants to. 8 and 18. As that main assault rifle on a map like Checkmate, you need to be able to hold down these lanes and pick up those kills. It's not over until it's over. Right here, you see Scump. He's doing such a great job of just keeping plane control. He's going to give him 3 right off the initial break, and that's once again going to shut down the push from New York.
Another push forward it is Clay. Again, like we said, in terms of slang, not the greatest match so far throughout this control. So look to lead the charge, not just in maybe slaying himself, but also in the communication. He gets dropped yet again by Envoy. Granted, if you're New York, you're still grabbing some progress, but it's got to be frustrating when Envoy just turns around the corner and is nearly guaranteed a kill every time he sees you. But off of that, Chicago starting to fall a few in spree. The stack is in from NYSL. That kill looks good to maybe solidify it, but the final 1 versus 2, Scump goes big. And that will clear that A point, that progress somewhat going out the window. And here comes the streak. We'll see if that does affect NYSL in a major way. At the very least, maybe just slowing their progress off of spawn. 45 seconds left. You've got 1 more tick left today. No progress at B. What can New York do in what is currently a very tricky situation? Cleared out 1 portion, and Asim with the fight toward the top. That's going to be 2 lanes clear. And that should be all good for them to finally grab that 8 point, Stud.
And that's going to be 3 down. So the 8 point is going to come in. Time is going to be extended by a minute. Don't forget that Envoy did use that artillery to try to keep New York in their base. But New York, they have been able to fight out. Asim, he's just staying alive, just trying to blow up some trophies here and there. And 2 players now are going to drop for OpTic. And here comes the stack from New York. New York, all they have to do is just put a couple players on this point, and it's going to go fast. 2 players are now going to drop. OpTic is still trying to fight out of the base. The first tick is going to come in towards this B point. OpTic need to get a little bit more aggressive, or we're going to go to a round 5.
Coming down to the wire, Scump tries to get up close. Clay's winning the fights from range. Envoy's at least able to put 1 in the dirt, but meanwhile, a minute on the clock. 1 more tick left for New York as Asim wins a big fight. Trying to stay alive, waiting for his teammates to come off of spawn. How quickly can the cavalry start to arrive? But it's Asim who doesn't even need any support. It's all him by himself as Scump finally is able to shut him down. But the team fights continue to echo throughout Checkmate as Clay tosses up the nade for good measure. Just a few more ticks, just a few more moments before this one belongs to New York. But Scump hops on the point, trying to take away any of that progress. And he will take it down a decent amount, 7-7 in lives. Envoy continues to be a menace on Checkmate. 27 and 18. Can New York try to clear him out as they rely on players like Asim to try to go big toward the top side of the plane, but he drops. HyDra trying to make his way toward top. Clayster tries to go for the punch, but he falls. Now a 5v4 favoring OpTic, but HyDra comes through with the big 2, trying to clear out this portion of the map as the rest of the players look to try to hop inside of the point. 23.1 seconds on the clock, but it's Envoy who finds 1. The trade as the time stops. A 3 versus 2. It's Formal from the flank who finds 2. It's all on to HyDra. And the 1 versus 2, but he falls, and OpTic will hold on here in the control. A round that literally goes down to the final moments. But it is OpTic who stay alive. and hold off the 3-0 sweep attempt from New York.
They stay alive, man, and it was just great plays from their SMD duo. Scump was doing such a great job at just keeping that plane control, and then even when we thought New York had multiple opportunities to cap that initial point, Scump jumps off the plane, and he's able to take down 3, not once, but twice to shut down that push. And then eventually towards the later rounds, Envoy, the route man, picks up some early streaks, and eventually he just plays his life beautifully. He was not missing any bullets on that map. I would have been real sad right there if they ended up losing that one, because New York, they were really struggling to fight out of their base. OpTic basically looked like they were in control the entire time, but New York, they just kept on answering, kept on trying to fight back. OpTic, they shut it down though. Now they find themselves still in this series, down 2-1, going into another hard point. OpTic stay alive, and that's the first respawn in a couple days. Good job, OpTic. Way to get that one underneath your belt.
It is indeed, man. So this is like one that I feel like OpTic deserved, like based off the way that Envoy was playing. Like you feel like they just kind of deserved to take this map, despite what was a very close final round 4. But as you said, OpTic, they finally get the respawn, and they're gonna need to kind of continue that momentum, folks, as we have got Moscow HP up right after this quick break.
Try, can't stop it. OC dub, way up like a rocket. Acting up, acting that way out of pocket. For the grind, for the hustle, I can't knock it. Do what it take, do what you do, you could try. Yeah. I've been up, I've been stuck up in the sky. Yeah. Only at the top, I can't lie. Haters watch it, throw the piece, tell them bye. I got things to do, I got bands to get. Competition up in smoke, ooh, cannabis. Ask me why I'm a top 10 candidate. I'm so fly, I'm so clean, ooh, and I'm rich. They can't stop it, they can't stop the kid. They can't stop it, they can't stop the kid. Check the scoreboard, I'm running up stats. Numbers don't lie, that's facts. They can't stop it, they can't stop the kid. They can't stop it, they can't stop the kid. Check the numbers, I'm running it up. I got penny bands, I'm thumbing it, yeah. Tell them move. Get up out the way. It's ludicrous, yeah, how much I'm getting paid. 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10K. No mob ties for the player being made. Now how you spoke to your girl, better check her phone. And do you know what she doing when you not at home? And when she tell you she alone, but she not alone. She got a lot of options, eeny, miny, mo. She gon' do what she want, ain't no stopping it all. Pour the liquor in the cup, yeah, I'm topping it off. I might take your girl, take a trip to the mall. Put the shelf in the bag, yeah, cause I'm copping it off.
Call of Duty League is presented by T-Mobile, now America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile, the leader in 5G.
Coming in the 2021 season with a statement after 3-0 over the LA Thieves.
Oh boy, welcome back, folks, as we take a nice little stroll through downtown Dallas, a place that I am grateful enough to be able to call home, and it's treated us quite well in day 1 up to this point. We've had some banger series, and this one is also living up to the hype as, we got a game 4 coming up next, as we're going to kind of talk about how we've gotten to this point, Stud. It has really been New York out of the gates controlling those first 2. But OpTic, like we said, man, they used to rely on that control, and they're finally able to do it here again.
Yeah, man, and that's a good bounce back out of OpTic right there to win that control specifically, because obviously if not, they get 3-0. So now they still find themselves in this series. Great plays right there out of Scump and Envoy specifically, just holding it down, playing, picking up a majority of those kills. But we're going into that map number 4, which is going to be a hard point on Moscow. You see OpTic stats throughout hard point from stage 1 to stage 3. They have just been on the decline, and it's just not been good for them in hardpoint in general. You're gonna see them jump from 1st to 3rd to 5th, and then you see New York, they go from 6th to 10th now at first. They are undefeated. They are undefeated in hardpoint, and this is really difficult for OpTic now. And I feel like I never should be saying that because OpTic, they're just so stacked from top to bottom with this roster, and hardpoint should never be an issue for these guys. But going into a map like Moscow, my main matchup look is going to be FOMO versus Clayster, because on a map like Moscow, those early rotations can really come into play. And those veteran plays need to be there when it needs to come to staying your live, to playing your life, to making sure that you're communicating and blocking spawns for your teammates, and just making the heads-up play that you know is going to work out for your team in the long run. And on a map like Moscow, it's all going to be about those early rotation, those veteran plays that I like to say between those two phenomenal AR players.
Oh boy, you've set the stage well, stud. It is set to be a phenomenal hardpoint. Is it where we call it curtains? Or can OpTic win the Moscow HP and send us toward a Game 5 search and destroy on raid? It all comes down to this, keeping in mind New York with the favorable spawns to start off Moscow, as it will be the side attack coming in from the Eskies early out of the Chicago boys as they hope to try to grab some early seconds, and I have no idea. Mack has managed to find a kill, punch a player, and stay alive, stud.
Yeah, for some reason he's just able to, you know, go in there and pick up an easy 2-piece. It's not really easy for a lot of people. But New York, they're going to have an early setup for this P1 hardpoint. They're getting all this time, and they're keeping those spawns for that P2. OpTic right now, they have not got a single kill. I'm pretty sure no one on the side of... Oh, wait, as I say, FOMO, he gets one. He already has 2 kills. So, yeah, they get a couple kills, but New York, they just do such a great job at just holding down this setup off P1. That's going to give them about 40 seconds off of this initial hard point. And you're still keeping the spawn towards those P2. OpTic, they need to have an answer, and hopefully they're able to break in towards this P2 hard point, or the lead can grow drastically for New York.
So the only negative for that P1, hold on. Player 7, Envoy just spawned toward back boulevard. Hold on, folks. Wait a moment. I was getting ready to call out, like, you know, how great of a P1 start that is, but this very well may have broken open this P2 as Envoy gets the spawn toward upper boulevard, and that does set up Chicago for a more defined pinch as they now are fighting from the front. In from white come the New York Subliners, and really based off of that play, you think that Chicago, that could be their breaking point, that could be their opportunity as they do continue to spawn there. Despite that play, we're 2 hills deep, nearly that second one about to expire, and OpTic have 3 points with that kill. Granted, they are going to walk away with the final 15 seconds to scrap, but it's going to be the push already now toward Fountain and New York. They're set up and established well.
Yeah, I thought when Envoy got that spawn, it would lead to more time for OpTic, especially not time going in favor of New York, but they break through the front, they get a 4 dead, and they were able to get about at least 15 to 20 seconds off of that P2 hardpoint, and now they're fully set up for this P3. It's going to force OpTic to try to hit through elbow, try to hit around the back, but the way New York are set up right now, everyone has a crossfire set up. HyDra's going to be able to take down Envoy. 2 players are trying to push around the back, but Clayster's going to be able to take down Dashy. Here comes a challenge onto HyDra, which is going to be able to win it, and they eliminate the player out of the back. So now you're going to see FOMO in the back just trying to play his life, take his time. And Scump and Dashy eventually going to set up the pinch, spawning a couple players from New York all the way out towards street side, and finally OpTic get a break in, and we'll be able to get this remaining junk time.
That's a much needed break considering the scoreline, the way that it was looking. A Scump sitting on a heater finally drops after 5 kills in a row, but nonetheless, as we look ahead now toward P4, it is a great beginning out of the New York Subliners, looking to try to continue to dominate in the HPs, as now we'll step aside and listen in for our Astro listening on the New York Subliners.
Envoy at old elbow. There's only 2 on you guys. Only 2 on you guys. They're gonna spawn out. 1, 2 bank, maybe. 2 street. I'm gonna be behind them.
I'm coming back.
They're gonna spawn out P3 or P2.
He pushed me. He's inside bank still.
Inside bank.
Deep behind the car, behind the car.
I got him behind the car. You still spawn here?
Yeah, still bank. I'm coming up mid.
Yeah, this
I'm gonna pinch mid.
Okay, go.
I have a sub.
Flash him, going to hill. On hill behind the car.
Don't back.
Pillar weak. Pillar weak. Dead. He's on pillar still. He didn't go gold.
He's not moving. He's still on the pillar.
Pillar weak.
Don't touch the pillar. I'm pitching it.
No, where is he?
There's 2 hill. Play new. Envoy's gonna go new. Envoy's gonna be new here.
Envoy at old, weak.
I got me to a nade.
He went right side. I got him.
I think pushed. Fuck.
Rat and bust. Rat 1 shot, going gold. 1 at bust. 1 at pillar, 1 at rat.
Envoy can go through white, bro. I'm looking for it. I'm looking at the
Dashy, one courtyard, court. Behind the tree, behind our tree. Their tree side, their tree. And Dashy street.
Dashy's really weak on the street.
Dashy street.
Great bus.
I spawned P3, there's one behind us, I think. One's behind us.
Yeah.
Hey, top bank already, formal.
Yeah, I'm going green.
I'm gonna hold your glove. I'm gonna try to hold
Aski, Scump. He went long to their side hill.
I'm looking over back. I'm looking over back.
Green on me.
Okay.
I'll go deep.
One side mid.
Two green. Deep street.
I'm looking deep street. One more.
I got them both, let's go!
Nice.
Hit hill, crunch it!
I am. I'm coming from court.
Under their back stairs,
Under their back stairs.
One on me in the back side.
It's okay.
One on me in the back. I'm gonna go glass.
One long.
Are you guys playing for that? I'm
You
trying
should
to
go
get the
right.
Yeah.
That's
on the back. One back up the back. He's gonna go through like green closet or something.
I naded him.
I got him off time.
Top police. One top
Heard
police.
you.
I gotta say, that I really do love the comms there, my man. Like, I feel like Clay's kind of leading the troops. You got everybody communicating well, and even HyDra, where a lot of people kind of, explained coming into this, like, how great is his English going to be? Like, how can he really kind of contribute to the communication? He's calling out as well. Just overall, a great effort there out of NYSL, despite what has been a nice little sequence brewing for OpTic Chicago. Again, they get into a few crucial gunfights, and they will now possess those P2 spawns, and this very well could be their gateway into bringing this series to a level heading. Never mind.
So the comms right there.
Never mind.
They were great. They were great, but just like that, New York, they didn't have the spawns for the initial P2, but they break right through the middle of the map, and now they flip it on its head with 30 seconds remaining. Time should go in their favor as they're picking up a majority of these kills. I thought this was going to be OpTic's way back into this game. They were able to do such a great hold on that P1 hardpoint and keep those spawns for P2 the entire time until the hills started popping. And then once that happens, New York, they were able to break in. Now they find themselves up by basically 60 points. Now OpTic, they're going to be fully set up for this P3. You cannot die off this rotation and have a player spawn all the way across the map. Right now, OpTic, they're going to start off with the initial time. Gonna have two players from New York trying to push around street side, but FOMO, he's able to take down one. He's gonna have a big engagement with Clayster, but unfortunately, he's gonna drop there. So now you see New York starting to set up that pinch, starting to push around the backside. They know that FOMO's gonna be in the back, but do they know that Envoy is already out towards bus? He's able to take down Clayster. He's eventually trying to set up the pinch. He's gonna drop with FOMO holding the line in the backside. OpTic are doing such a great hold to get back into this game. FOMO currently on a 2 spree, just holding down those spawns for his team.
I mean, you said it coming into this series. It was going to be that AR battle, how important they can be. Locking down those spawns, locking down those setups. It was formal for a moment. It's Clayster as well. Gets the nice timing, but can't add on to it. As the final 14 will belong to OpTic Chicago. As now we look toward the Boulevard. Dashy trying to get some early damage done. Toward that next HP as OpTic look to go for the chain. Like I said, OpTic with that last hill bring us now basically to a completely even game. Asim winning some nice fights, and it looks as if based off of those fights, New York will now allow for OpTic to get the split spawn. Now we'll see how they look to try and handle this. One falls, Asim's going to give the call out now to HyDra. And really from a multitude of different angles, we got Asim now spawning out toward P2. Really just everybody in a number of different positions, just a matter of who can kind of maintain and control what is kind of an odd moment around the map. As the dust begins to settle, it will be OpTic yet again getting some good time and bringing themselves back into this hard point.
And OpTic have the opportunity to take this lead. But as I say, that 3 players are going to drop, so the only player here is going to be Dashy. You just have to try to wait for your teammates to get here or just challenge on, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Take down HyDra. The Clayster still trying to hold the line and make sure they don't gain any more time. But OpTic, they have fought back into this game. Now it's all about that P1. And off the rip, New York are going to be in it nice and early. But OpTic, they just did such a great job at just chaining a couple kills together. Dashy's able to take down one, but HyDra's going to slow down that push by eliminating 2 players from that statue. Mack with the other 2, and that's going to be a clean 4 dead with all of OpTic spawning out towards that back P3. New York, they're keeping the spawns for those P2. And they're just growing such a lead, and you see what OpTic is trying to do. They're trying to send 2 players from street, 2 players from Eskies. Whichever one that they open up with kills with, they're going to try to flip those spawns. But a lot of time is going in favor of New York. You cannot give this up if you're OpTic.
Ooh. Nice gunfight win there from Formal. Again, lots of valuable time still at P1. As you called it, New York. Parking the bus, as we like to say here at HP, as Formal continues to dominate toward the front. New York, they are focused on those P2 spawns. It has been the story so far. It was New York on the first side. It was OpTic on the second. Very, very close game, but what can be different out of OpTic Chicago?
Wow.
Here comes the plays. That Scump Informal T2B, T2P combined for 2. Meanwhile, it's menaces set up throughout the map. OpTic looks to force a few kind of now toward that boulevard position. Here comes the attempt to retake.
Yeah, so now the pinch is coming in. One player in Envoy is going to be hitting the front side, but Mack's trying to hold down the back. Envoy is going to be able to pinch the front, and just like that, OpTic are able to get in. They're able to break that 200-point mark, and if they're able to hold this remaining time, they will have that lead, and it's going to force NYSL to focus up off that rotation, and that's exactly what they're going to do. We're finally going to see a lead change. OpTic have taken control of this game, have brought this one all the way back. Now it's all about what kind of break can they set up for that P3 hard point. It's looking like they're going to have 3 players going towards Deep Street. And the way that New York are playing this, they might be a little too tight. If one player does drop, he will spawn all the way across the map if he doesn't hold his kill cam, but that opportunity has completely went out the window. They're going to start with the initial time, down 10 points. They hold this initial break right here from OpTic. That second push is going to be so much more difficult. It's all about this hold. Can New York do it?
Time game. Clay, Mack, they combine for 2. A solid early wave shut down from OpTic Chicago as now they begin to realize where the spawns are coming from. Formal finds a nice one, but Clay in from the Yeskies. Clay finds one. Clay can't find the second. Meanwhile, it's plays being made on both sides of the map as the time continues to tick away. OpTic fall, and it will be a victory for the New York Subliners. They hold it down over at Fountain and secure the series. Back and forth they went, but with this win, we've been given information that New York will confirm a winner's bracket top 3 seed in this group. A huge win for the team and a big win for the birthday boy tomorrow. And Clay goes big, drops some major numbers. Now, this guy turns 29 tomorrow. Clay turns 29 tomorrow.
He's so old and he's still doing this at such a high level. You got to just tip the hat to the guy. The guy's just on point, man. I told you, the AR battles on that map number 4 is what it was all going to come down to. Clayster, he has a phenomenal game from start to finish, winning those rotation battles right off the rip. And then, obviously, OpTic were able to get back into that game towards the second rotation of hard points. But when the setup needs to be there, Clayster is going to guide his teammates to what exactly they need to do. That's going to put them at 7-0 now. Just in hard points alone with this new roster. And now OpTic with that loss, if they have a chance at getting in winner's bracket, it's got to be through FaZe. And that's going to be such an insane matchup for those guys now.
And what, FaZe have a matchup tomorrow versus the Surge, which also could add another element into this. But then we talk about Clay, his 29th birthday, also gets 29 kills in this hard point. So 29 for the 29-year-old. Impressive stuff out of Father Clay. Now we talk about Father App Clay as well. Deserving of that title. We got to revisit this hard point with our scuff play of the game. Again, study so many major sequences kind of throughout this one. We talked about New York's lead early, OpTic making some major plays kind of toward the stretch, but it comes down to Fountain yet again.
Yeah, so right here, OpTic Chicago, they set themselves up for one push. And, like, this is the only thing about going around Deep Street is if that gets shut down completely, you're all the way going to spawn across the map, and you definitely won't have enough time to just put in a second attempt at a push. But once this is set up, the play that comes in from that number 3 player? Oh, wait, who is it from New York? It's Clayster, the veteran. He goes around, he sets up the pinch, he's able to take down one, and then eventually Mack with some great team shots sets up on Scump. They eliminate Dashy out of the back, and now this is all forcing OpTic to spawn out towards the front. You see Clayster once again going straight up through Eskies, playing for those spawn kills, just trying to be an extra layer to where those players on OpTic cannot contest that point, and it was just such a great hold. Like I said, OpTic, they only had one opportunity to break that. If they decide to go through mid-map, probably go through L, be a little bit aggressive towards that, they can get a second attempt, but just a long ride around street wasn't the right play to make, and New York, they capitalized on it and close out.
And we got to highlight it too, man. Like Clay in those moments, like he just makes the major sequences, like in his life, right? He takes down the players trying to go for the push toward Boulevard, then he makes the flank inside of Eskies. Just very, very crucial plays kind of toward the stretch. The game kind of surprised me when it ended almost, because it was like, okay, this could be OpTic's chance, but as you said, they invest in kind of that one play, and it does not work out. Clay, a major contributor in that, as we see New York, 1 series left. As we said, they have established and guaranteed themselves a top 3 seed in their group. Still 1 more match left. I know that's going to be a game fuel marquee matchup. It's going to be NYSL taking on the LA Thieves. Now with Huke in the lineup, that is going to be 1 spicy series. And on the other side, Stud, OpTic, 1 more match left, as it's going to be versus the Atlanta FaZe, a classic matchup, no doubt.
They started off stage 3 so hot, man. 3-1 victory over the Ravens, 3-0 over the Surge, and then they go in versus the Thieves and lose every single respawn. And this is just a bad scenario for OpTic right now. They get 3-1 here by New York, and now it's all gonna come down to that match versus Atlanta FaZe. And I have been waiting for that match for a really long time. The last time we've seen it was all the way throughout stage 1, and we're already in stage 3. So I'm excited to see that rematch between those 2 teams. Obviously, FaZe walked away with that first matchup. And now, but just the way that OpTic are looking, especially in those hard points, it's not looking good for them. They need to go back and just hit the drawing board and just come out with new strategy, because their hard point is just really weak right now.
And I want to talk to you quickly. I know I mentioned to you, that Minnesota versus LAG battle, like who kind of looks more threatening. What do you think OpTic needs to do to look almost as threatening as New York right now? Like, what do they need to do specifically in those respawns to try and adjust and kind of be a scary team, whether that be in the winners or the losers side?
They just need to come out and win a hard point. This is 2 series in a row where they have yet to win a hard point. They've played a total of 4. And this is just something that they've been having problems with, is just those rotations, not picking up certain kills in certain situations. And that very ending of that hard point, they only give themselves 1 push. If they understood that if this gets shut down, we basically lose the game. And obviously they're playing to win the game, but in the very ending moments, they're just starting so slow in these hard points. They need to start a little bit earlier so they can fight out towards the very end of those games.
I got to ask you too, who do you think makes a deeper run? Who do you think has the ability to be more threatening at that major if we do see OpTic improve in those areas?
Between who? OpTic and New York? I think New York, without a doubt, man. Like, just watching them in hardpoint ever since they picked up this new guy in HyDra, they're 7-0. Obviously, their search and destroy is only going to get better as they continue to play with each other. That 6-2 victory on Express is something that I wasn't expecting, but they get the job done, man. It's just the way that these guys look right now, it's really hard to match these guys in that specific game mode. There's 2 hardpoints in every series, and if they're continuously getting better at search and destroy, it's just going to be really difficult to take those guys down.
Yeah, like, what is their record now? Like NYSL, like, is it 7-0 in hardpoint?
7-0. 7-0, man. Opposite of James Bond.
That's very true. Yeah, they are, without a doubt, just absolutely slaying everybody in sight. They get the job done here. Versus OpTic in a series, like I said, that literally means everything. Like now, like I said, that for New York, that's like, hey, now kind of a sigh of relief. Now they have a different outlook coming into that series versus the Thieves. And now for OpTic side, it's kind of a matter of maybe a lot of stats figuring out, like, what do they have to do versus FaZe? Like, obviously, to win that, but like, how does that kind of come into play? Just some madness so far here to start off the Dallas home series. And we don't expect to see even more madness continue to kind of break on in, man. But like I said, when it kind of comes down to, well, I guess kind of the future outlook for this New York team, I think this is kind of a good statement win for this roster, because we talk about, just HyDra coming into this. It was all about the hard points, but search and destroy and control, that's where things started to lack. I don't know what his overall KD ends out in this series, but his performance in those search and destroys, that specific one on Express, he just seems to be in a much more comfortable place right now.
Yeah, he definitely is, man. Ever since they picked up this guy, the 2 wins that they have, 1 versus Atlanta FaZe in a Game 5, and then 1 versus OpTic Chicago in a Game 4. These guys, the only loss I'm pretty sure they have is versus the Ravens, and that's just something that we weren't expecting from New York. But you're going to see our schedule right here for the Dallas home series. We'll continue on tomorrow. You're going to have the Surge going up against Atlanta FaZe, and then Dallas Empire going up against the Mutineers. I'm excited to see what work the Mutineers have been able to put in on the backside, but that's going to be some good matches for sure.
Oh, man. And then what we got our schedule for Saturday and Sunday. We got the Subliners taking on the Thieves. Like, that's going to be a nuts game. With a number of different other ones to look out for Sunday. I mean, that's really what things kind of come to a close. Well, it's going to be OpTic versus FaZe, and then to wind things down, Empire versus the Minnesota Røkkr. And obviously, we talk about this a lot, like, the standings and, what this kind of means. So we have to talk about what's actually on the line. Not only is it glory, but it's also some cash, man. Like, these guys are playing for lots and lots of money, given the way that things are kind of appearing right now. Like I said, we often talk about the results and how that plays a factor. Look at this, man. Like, the playoff pricing structure, $2.5 million, $1.2 million for first. And then, a cool $650,000 for second as well. This is This is some change, my friend.
Yeah, that's an absurd amount of money. I can't even imagine waking up and getting first place in this tournament. 1.2 mil. Oh my God, I'm throwing money up in the air just like Atlanta FaZe in their intro video, just flowing in cash.
I love it, man. Yeah, that'd be a nice little chunk of change, without a doubt. But folks, we're gonna throw it to a quick little commercial break. Like I said, it's been an excellent day one here at our Dallas home series. NYSL, they claim victory as the road to the Stage 3 Major. It's more and more intense.
The Call of Duty League is presented by T-Mobile, now America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile, the leader in 5G. The Call of Duty League is presented by Seany, the official eyewear for the CDL. Armor your eyes with Seany Blocks blue light protection glasses by visiting seany.com/gaming.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Dallas home series. We have to reflect on what has been a crazy day number one, Stud. I know just kind of the instant reaction there in regards to New York versus OpTic. And the one question that I did want to kind of ask you now looking forward is, I guess, like, what do you think the next steps for OpTic should be? And I used to kind of going back to the drawing board, what really needs to be the next steps for OpTic coming into their final series versus FaZe?
I feel like versus FaZe, obviously, you know how talented they are just in respawns in general. You need to go back and just fix those crucial moments and those hard points that are costing you games. Like Envoy, when he's able to spawn towards the back of that P2 on Moscow, he needs to make a play. You need to be able to secure that and gain a full 60. Once they get that blessed spawn, you need to be able to get that time. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen. So that's stuff that they need to work on, especially just in their hard point. You need to come out and just be the dominant team that we know you can be. And just rely on a lot of your teamwork, because obviously in those situations where they have the advantage and it's just not going in their favor, just letting the other team just capitalize on their mistakes. And that's a lot of things where we talk about with OpTic, just their mistakes that they are putting on themselves, especially on those hard points that are really costing them. They need to go back, like I said, to the drawing board and just clean up a lot of that.
Oh, hey, man, there's some time to do it. Like we said, these matches, they mean everything. It's not just about winning series, but it's also about maps, like getting as many 3-0s as you can, while also trying to lose in game 5s. Like, it really, everything matters when we talk about that Stage 3 Major, as it only gets more intense. Again, it has been a crazy day one, and we're only looking for the Dallas home series to continue to treat us. But folks, when we come back after this quick little break, it's going to be Lottie and Nameless breaking down the day and setting us up for what should be an electric day 2 again here at the Dallas home series.
Well, the day draws to a close, but we still have that gorgeous view of downtown Dallas. And I tell you what, we have some gorgeous results for all of you. And if you've been watching, you know what I'm talking about. We've got our schedule with results presented by US Army. First up, a wonderful Game 5 won by Minnesota Røkkr against LAG. Absolutely incredible stuff, and Røkkr are looking like they're on the rise. Then, New York Subliners. New York, baby, because versus OpTic. OpTic were no match for this New York Subliners team, 3-1. Honestly, could have been a 3-0 there for a second, but that control was snuck away by OpTic there. Incredible, honestly, across the board. And you know, HyDra is definitely dealing damage there with his team. They're looking pretty hot to trot right now. Nameless, I gotta ask you though, my dude, you know, right now, OpTic versus NYSL, you're always talking about things that catch your eye, and I think the hard point for you was a little bit of a standout there. What was going on?
Yeah, that first hard point, it was back and forth in the beginning, and then when it got down to that P1 on the last rotation, OpTic pretty much threw it away. I mean, you're going to see in this clip, they go and they rotate around to get spawns for Temple, and Dashy jumps over the wall, he gets taken out. It just goes all over the place. So you see right here in your mini-map, all three OpTic players rotating around to back Temple right now, but instead of pushing the back with Scump, Dashy decides to take a shortcut. He gets taken out by HyDra. After that, HyDra's able to win the one-on-one against Scump. So they basically gave HyDra 2 one-on-ones, and HyDra's obviously extremely talented, can win those, right? So OpTic gives himself no advantage. Formal wins this fight, but is quickly traded by Asim. And now they had just lost 60 points in the hill prior to that. They give it up, they rotate, and they try to set up for new. They lose 60 points here, and this sets New York up for P2 inside of Temple once again. So you can see how, like, one mistake can end up losing you the entire map. So where OpTic was competitive throughout, they're just not refined in these hard points. It's just the team decisions on rotations. It seems like they're lost, to be quite frank. They have a lot of work to do, and I tweeted out, you know, after this map, I was like, I know OpTic is better than this. This is so uncharacteristic of these guys, but, you know, at this point, it kind of is characteristic of them after their last two series.
You know what, man, literally you were saying this and it's also just jolting memory in my head of that final hard point as well. Like that end rotation that we saw, it's just so poor and the decision making just wasn't good. And I feel like it's the same story every time we do see that hard point, that respawn coming across from OpTic right now. They have a lot of work to do behind the scenes to be able to really reach their full potential here as a squad, because right now it isn't cutting it, unfortunately. But I tell you what, I do have some brighter news, and that's tomorrow's schedule, because we have a wonderful looking schedule for you guys, presented by the US Army, of course. I showed you it earlier on, but here you go, 3 p.m. Eastern. We got Surge kicking things off with FaZe, a big match for poor little Decemate coming in there. And then 4:30 p.m. Eastern, we got Empire versus Mutineers. So really good matches to get through as well tomorrow. And that leads me to talk about Decemate and Surge and really what we expect from them tomorrow. So Nameless, do you have any thoughts or feelings about it?
Yeah, I mean, Surge, they're trying to bring in a player that can bring, you know, some slaying ability to their roster, but Decemate is also Search and Destroy All-Star. So I actually think they'll improve in all three game modes, and mainly control. That is where Surge has struggled throughout the season. We've seen them go up 2-0 in some series, and they lose that control. They end up getting reverse swept. So bringing in Decemate, I'm excited for him. The man calls himself Homelander for a reason. He's a unit on the map. He's been doing a lot of work in Challengers. A lot of people are saying that he was the guy who was going to come in and dominate. So I'm super excited to see him on this Surge team. They started to get a lot better during stage 2, but it seems like they peaked, and they had to replace Looney, who was underperforming. If you look at Looney's statistics, he was near the bottom of all players that we had in the entire league. So if you bring in Decemate and he's consistent and he can slay a bit better, they can improve in every single mode.
100%. Definitely on the same page with you there, and I mean, like, bringing in a fresh pair of hands, I would say legs, but in this case it's definitely hands, onto the scene for a team does an awful lot. And I think you're right in saying that. I feel like Surge needed something else to spice it up for them a little bit, and I think Decemate might be just that. But we will certainly find out tomorrow and see exactly how the new looking Surge do. With that being said, Nameless, pleasure as always, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, my friend.
Absolutely.
And you guys on YouTube, I will see you guys at 3 p.m. Eastern or 12 p.m. Pacific, depending on where you're watching from. Get some sleep, folks. We've got bangers tomorrow and you don't want to miss them. So I'll see you then.
This has been an unbelievable week of Call of Duty.
This was just absolutely insane.
It just still has me mind blown, man.
One of the craziest sequences I've ever seen in my life.
It's Wednesday, and it's the start of the major. The LA Thieves have come to play. Oh boy! The Thieves absolutely decimate Paris.
There goes Scump, and it will be the Ultra taking down OpTic Chicago.
What are you talking about, baby?
Ace, a devastating 3-0.
Lose this, you go home.
Deep 3-0 New York and keep the Cinderella story alive.
A nail biter here in the map 4.
FaZe, yes! Oh, baby, aBeZy.
It is FaZe with the victory. FaZe will move in to top 3. And for Ultra, you still have a chance to battle on. You're not out of it yet.
Fans is going to get the quick contest. They killed everyone! They killed all the Thieves! Toronto Ultra 3-0 in the series. For the Thieves, the honeymoon period is over.
Drop kick to the dome.
Accuracy, though, they line up! They line up for accuracy, and he wins it! Are you kidding? Accuracy with the ice!
Oh my god!
The Giants, the Titans, Atlanta FaZe. Can anyone take down the final boss? It is do or die time.
Kleenex, the best player in the world. Ultra, they continue on.
Okay!
Gosh! Ultra behind the brakes. Get to a grand final.
Atlanta FaZe, once they hit the go button, there is no stopping them. What happened? The greatest underdog going into the tournament. They take the best team in the league the whole way. They truly are Ultra as your major 2 champions, Toronto Ultra.